You can close this window. Let's do some tasks. And welcome everybody to another episode, another edition of the Cripple Connection podcast. My name is Cody Lashney, joined as always by my brother, my partner in crime, Jeffrey Redmond. What's going on, dude?
Hey Cody, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. As always, for this edition, we're going to be breaking down. It feels like all we do now is pretty much break down press conferences.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, but next week, you and I are going to do a deep dive on some Last of Us 2. So be on the lookout for that. If you're a fan of what we're doing and you've heard us before or you like the content, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And that helps our channel to grow and to be seen by more people. And yeah, I think we're ready to do it. We got some things to talk about today. Jeffrey, let's start with a bit of a continuation of last week's podcast, and let's talk about PlayStation 5. Because we've gotten some news, we've gotten some rumors that we have now an official price point. And I can actually pull it up here. And we don't know yet 100% if this is confirmed, but it's looking like the PlayStation 5's disc version is going to be $4.99, and the digital version is going to be $3.99, which I don't know about you, but the fact that they have any console for less than $500 is actually kind of surprising.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially seeing how it's probably going to be the most popular version of the console because so many people, they just download their games now. They don't, we were talking about this last time. Why go to GameStop and wait in line, be there in time and pick it up when you can just download these titles straight to your console? And now there's a console that's made for just that.
Right. And the thing is, I think it's supposed to ship with 2 terabytes of memory, which, but given the games now and how large they are, it does kind of worry me as far as space goes. I mean, eventually they probably will have, expansions that you could buy, extra hard drives or whatever. But I am kind of curious as to whether these hard drives will be upgradable, because it's a very specific solid state drive and a very specific chipset. So I'm a little concerned, but like you, I do everything digitally, and it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. I mean, unless you collect a bunch of 4K Blu-ray movies and shit, I really don't see the point in having a one that's able to read discs. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I like it a lot. And I also got news from a French Amazon posting. I can't find it anymore, unfortunately, which really doesn't lend a lot of credibility to it. But it actually gave the release date as November 19th. And it's interesting to say that because Cyberpunk 2077 got pushed back to November 19th as well, which means it could be a launch title for the PS5.
Yeah, well, then essentially it would be a launch title. Yeah. And again, I mean, it's going to be weird questions that people are going to have to ask themselves. I mean, not really weird, but you have to determine what you want to play a game like that on. I mean, if I have a PlayStation 5 on the 19th, then yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get Cyberpunk 2077 on the next generation console. Especially since we're going to have Ghost of Tsushima. People are already playing The Last of Us. Cyberpunk will be available on PlayStation 4. But, in my opinion, it's perfect for Sony. I don't know when Xbox. I haven't heard any dates as to when the Xbox One X or what? What?
It's the Series X.
Xbox Series X. Okay.
Yeah, that just sounds stupid. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't roll off your tongue.
It doesn't roll.
I mean,
and
dude,
nothing against Microsoft, but I think that's a stupid title. They need to figure that one out.
And you always kind of have to wonder what the next edition of the Xbox is actually going to be called. Because,
right.
like, okay, PS5, 6, 7, 8. Like,
we're
going to do this forever, and it's going to sound fine. You know?
Right.
And it's PlayStation. That's never going to change. You just add a different number to it. But was there anything surprising? I mean, if this turns out to be true, let's just say, is there anything surprising to you about, either the price or the release date, or is this kind of what you were expecting? Which, by the way, let me just say one more thing. If it does turn out to be true, I mean, maybe they're working out the nuts and bolts of it, but if this does turn out to be true, why wouldn't you release this news during the press conference? Like, that would have been a big deal to have to see the price and the release date a week ago when the press conference was actually happening. Like, that would have been a big way to close out that press conference.
I don't know. I think like you said, they're still trying to work out the smaller little details first. And because it was leaked, I don't think they want to give any credibility to leaked information. So they literally just held it off. And I think it's to save their own ass. You know what I mean?
Right.
To make them not, seem as like predictable by other people. So, whatever. Nothing really surprises me here. We knew it was going to be holiday, 2020. We thought it was actually going to be a little bit sooner. We thought it was going to be October, was the last that I had heard prior to this news. I am glad that it's cheaper. It's not cheaper by much because I got my PS4 originally for $500. Mm-hmm. So the $499 isn't that surprising to me, but that's for the disc version. The fact that there's a $399 for the digital version is awesome. And honestly, I think that's the one that's going to sell like hotcakes because, like I said, there's really no reason.
Yeah, I think so too. I really am curious to see how much of the disc version, how much that sells. Just like to actually know how much buying a tangible disc means to people. How many people are like that out there? And again, this is our podcast is just starting out, so we're still kind of building a base of listeners. But to anyone who does listen, I'd love to know, what your thoughts on it is. How many people out there are looking to buy this next PlayStation 5 and be able to put a disc in it, and is that worth $100 extra? Like $100 extra just to be able to own a disc copy of whatever game you're buying? Like, is it worth that extra $100 just to have the disc? To me, the answer is no, and it means I get to spend a little less money and be able to have access to it soon. But for me, it would not be worth it.
Right, and for me neither. I have actually sold all my physical copies of PS4 games. I don't even have any on my shelf right now. So, and I don't mean this to be mean to developers, but games just aren't worth keeping around like they used to be. Usually games are a one and done thing now. Either that or they're multiplayer games that are digital already, and there's no way to get them physically. So games just, and I don't mean to be mean, it's not like they're not worth anything. People are moving on so quickly and consuming so many games that it's not feasible to have physical copies because you don't have anywhere to put them.
They've definitely been devalued by newer technologies. There's no doubt about it. But hey, listen, we'll see if it's true. I hope it is true. Like I said, if you're Sony and you've been knowing this for a while, I don't know why you wouldn't do everything in your power to try and get this out during the last press conference, when it seems like those two news, the release of the console, at the same time with the price and the two different editions, it just kind of seems like a missed opportunity. But we'll see. I mean, it has to still be determined to be true. So we'll check that out. We'll continue to keep our ears to the ground as time goes on. But Jeffrey, let's kind of move on a little bit to our more main topics today. And we ended up getting news from the Pokemon press conference. Which was it? I mean, what would you call it? A press conference?
It wasn't even that. It was a Pokemon Direct is the correct terminology here. But it was a very quick 10-minute thing. They showed off some stuff. So what you're seeing right here is an app for little kids on their phone. It's called Pokemon Smile. It's a way to make kids brush their teeth. Pokemon is always trying to bring in the newer generation. A lot of people think that Pokemon is for children. I mean, I grew up with it myself. It's been around that fucking long. So
it is. It is for children, and especially with, like, listen, when we were kids, everyone knew and loved Pokemon. That's when it all blew up. If you're a '90s kid like I am. And now it's like those kids are having kids, and then they get to grow up with Pokemon too, and it's like, I'm sure some little shit out there doesn't want to brush his teeth, and you're pissed off and ready to go to bed. Like, get Pikachu to make his little ass brush his teeth. I'm all for it.
And I mean, it is, it's cute, it's adorable. I think it'll hold kids' attention, and like you said, it's meant for, the tots who are too much of a pain in the ass to brush their teeth. So, it seems to function. Okay, so this
basically, who gives a shit? This is more of the news that's more relevant to people, I think, these next two games.
So this is Pokemon Cafe. All these matching games that we have, all those cheap kind of like mobile games that are going around, like Candy Crush and shit. Okay, well, this is, kind of their attempt to do something like that. This is Pokemon Cafe. It's coming out for the Switch as well as for mobile devices, which proves how they want this game to be addictive and stuff. They did mention that it's free to download, but of course, there's going to be microtransactions out the ass. So, I mean, it looks cute. I might spend like 10 minutes a day with it, but it's not my bread and butter here.
Well, I think seeing the success of Pokemon Go, which obviously that was a very different thing, but also, listen, Pokemon is some of the most accessible, one of the most accessible brands ever. I mean, even if you don't know shit about Pokemon, you at least know of it. And then everyone has a phone. Everyone wants to kill time playing these little handheld games and Candy Crush and all that shit. It's like, if you're a Pokemon, why not do that? It's a gold mine. And supported languages is Japanese, English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Korean, and traditional Chinese. So this is a part of Pokemon's ploy to continue taking over the world, bro, because that's essentially what they're trying to do. And I personally accept our Pokemon overlords into my life, and I do not look to cause trouble in this coming communist Pokemon hell we have coming to us. But the big news that everybody is excited about, which I didn't even know that I would be excited by this. Like, I didn't remember how much I loved the original Pokemon Snap, but we have a brand new Pokemon Snap. And so talk a little bit about one, did you have any memories playing the original one? And
I do.
Two, how excited are you for this?
I have always, and people may not know this about me, but I've always considered myself an amateur photographer. I've always loved
Oh,
the
cool.
idea of taking photographs.
Yeah,
And
I
while
didn't
I
know that
don't
about
own a
you.
camera myself, I've always been obsessed with like composition and getting the perfect shot. Anybody who's followed my Twitter account will know that I fucking like, posted screenshots of my time with Pokemon Sword like a madman. So yeah, my actual introduction to the whole photography phenomenon started with Pokemon Snap, and it's as simple as it sounds. It's an on-rail game where you literally take pictures of Pokemon, as you're going along,
Mm-hmm.
in these different environments. Um, I remember because I didn't own an N64, and a lot of people are looking at me like, "What? You didn't own one?" But no, I didn't. So my time with Pokemon Snap was very very special to me. I remember getting stuck and helping someone try to get that perfect shot of Mew in the final level.
Yeah.
It required a very specific set of conditions. It was crazy. But I remember we got that final shot, and he actually took it to like one of those like special printout booths that they had, where you could take it and actually get the picture printed. I still have it. I wish I had taken it out before this. I didn't think about it, but I still have that shot. Um, so yeah, it's that important. And
Yeah,
I
I remember going over to a friend's house. Like we had this big sleepover at
yeah,
this lady that kind of worked with a bunch of us. We went and spent the night at her house, me and a bunch of my friends, and yeah, we all played Pokemon Snap all night. We would all just like kind of rotate turns, playing Pokemon Snap and drinking root beer
yeah.
floats and shit. Good
Hell
times,
yeah,
good
dude.
times, man.
Hell yeah,
And
dude.
and again, like whenever so much of this plays on nostalgia. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
definitely.
It's just like
Yeah,
it's kind of like what I just mentioned. When we were kids playing these kinds of things, and now we're in our 30s. People are having families. It's just like a way to reintroduce it to another generation, but also
exactly.
play on that nostalgia. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember vivid parts of my childhood playing this and just having a good time with it. And,
yeah. And I mean, now that social media is a thing and you could take screenshots, like I was saying, people are going to be posting their damn pictures everywhere. And it's going to be great, when people are
yeah,
going to be fighting for that perfect shot, which is essentially what Pokemon Snap was meant to be. So now that the technology is up there, it's going to be even more of a
yeah,
even more of a competitive thing, which is awesome. Um, and it
that
seems like they're bringing in Pokemon from all different generations too. So it's not just Generation One like we grew up with, which I'm a Gen One guy. So anything past I think Generation Three, I start forgetting shit. But it's cool to see other generations being represented as well. So that's cool.
yeah. And again, man, it's just that continuation of what I was talking about. Pokemon, it's it has a fan base all over the world,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that goes beyond age and stuff, and
Mhm.
people have memories of it. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, do you think that this is going to be a console mover for the Nintendo Switch? Do you see people buying a Nintendo Switch specifically to play Pokemon Snap? Is what I'm asking.
Yes, because, and I'll tell you why. Well, it's because Pokemon, like you said, is such a big deal. Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is a proper Pokemon game, you know, was responsible for moving units for the Switch as well. So anything Pokemon centric, I think, is enough on its own to move a system. But like you said, nostalgia plays a big, huge thing in that. And I think anyone who owned an N64 version of Pokemon Snap is instantly going to want to buy a Switch. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I already quit out the video. Did you want to talk about the Pokemon Go thing? I
Oh,
didn't. I didn't catch the end of all of these press conferences.
okay. So I'll mention some stuff briefly.
Yeah.
So Pokemon Go obviously is the augmented reality game where you walk around in real life and you catch shit on your phone. So obviously, with the pandemic going on, that's no longer going to be a thing. They usually have like these big, huge events where people gather in places like Times Square
Yeah. Yeah.
in New York or Shibuya in Japan, and like really have these big, huge things. Well, they're not going to be able to do that this year, obviously. They said they're going to hold some kind of digital event, but there was um, no real information on when or how that's going to be happening. So we'll just have to wait, as you know, as these events draw closer, to really know
Yeah.
how they're going to do
Pokemon
that.
Go Fest 2020.
Yeah, but
Um.
it is still happening. We just don't know how
Okay.
exactly.
Did you ever do
So,
the? Did you ever fall victim to the Pokemon Go craze? Cause I sure as
well,
hell did, man. I remember me and my buddy Angel. Cause I live very very near to the city of Charlotte, so we would
right.
do. The city was our playground for a little while. We would just kind of go around everywhere, hit the Pokemon stops, try and get our Pokemon into gyms as you would do. I had fun with it, but then kind of like everything else, it just fell off of it, you know. So
Well,
how about
I
you?
yeah.
Did you play Pokemon Go?
No, because I don't go anywhere. I'm usually in my house like
Homebody.
24/7, and there's no way to play that game unless you're physically going
Yeah,
places.
it's definitely
So
better. So like for people that make commutes to work
right,
or just to anywhere, people that are out, and it's one of those things that you can just kind of do on the go. You know.
yeah, yeah, and that's what it's for.
Yeah.
I do briefly want to mention that the DLC, which you're seeing right now for Pokemon Sword and Shield,
Right.
did drop on Wednesday. I have completed the story. Um, I want to go on a tiny rant here.
Go on, man.
I
Do your
hate,
thing.
I hate, I hate this fucking DLC.
Oh,
I
you
hate,
hate it.
I hate it with a passion,
Okay.
and
Do
I'm gonna
tell.
tell I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, so and that's all that was in the video, other than a few other minor things. But I hate this DLC, and I'm gonna tell you why. So initially in the game, for the base game, there were only 244 Pokemon. They cut out the international Pokedex, and I think Pokemon are now up to 900 and something, if my memory serves. So like they cut out a giant chunk of previous Pokemon. Well, they've decided now that they're going to start adding them back in. And I remember this was a big controversy when Sword and Shield were dropped. People were complaining and boycotting the game because it didn't have all the other Pokemon from the international releases and yada yada yada. But
Mm-hmm.
now they're adding them back in as DLC that you have to pay for. Um, and I
They,
should mention that all 107 new Pokemon that were added in this DLC are not new at all. They are all from previous generations. So we're not even getting anything new here.
oh,
Um,
so not only was it a letdown content wise, but they're trying to nickel and dime you too.
yeah, yeah, essentially. And the storyline was, eh. It's kind of cool because you go
How
to a
many people play
dojo and
these Pokemon games for the story though? Like they're
yeah,
so basic. I
oh,
feel.
I know, but it's like even now, they're compared to how Sword and Shield was kind of the base game was like this doom ending prophecy where everybody was gonna die, and then you go to something light like this,
Yeah.
kind of goofy and off the wall. And I realize these games are for kids, but I grew up with these things, and as Pokemon has gotten older, it's gotten a bit darker for these reasons. So to go back to something goofy, kind of killed it for me. The new legendary Pokemon, the big ass bear thing that you saw, He's pretty cool.
Dude, this
But
dude,
like, um,
this dude right here. Are you still
no, no,
watching
no, no,
the?
no, no, no. Back a little further than that.
Yeah. Okay.
His name is Cub Fu, and or she's that thing. Um,
Oh, he's dope.
he's pretty badass. He has two different forms. There's a light form and or no, I'm sorry. There's a dark form and a water form. You can choose whichever one you want him to evolve into. But yeah, he's a pretty badass looking thing. Um, the other thing to mention very, very briefly is that you can now Gigamax Pokemon. So I don't, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but essentially in Sword and Shield, you could Dynamax Pokemon and make them huge. While there were certain Pokemon in the game where you could Gigamax and like make them even bigger. Well, now you have the opportunity in this DLC to control which Pokemon Gigamax, whereas before it was completely random. But you have to do a lot of collection quests and a lot of bullshit stuff in order to get the results that you want. And that's the other problem I have with this DLC. It's a bunch of goddamn basic work. It's so fucking tedious, and just the amount of grinding you have to do to complete the Pokedex and all the trading you have to do. I already did it once. Okay, like I caught all 144 Pokemon in the original, in the base game. So I don't want to have to catch 107 more of these little bastards. I'm kind of done. The only good news is for anyone who's Gen 1, like us that grew up with it, you can finally now have all the Kanto starters, so Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur, which before you couldn't. So if that's important to you, like it is to me because I'm a nerd.
Well, it is to everybody. Like if you're an old school Pokemon fan, there's no way you don't give a shit. But that's also how they get you to buy DLC like this. Like, hey, do you want the most popular Pokemon that there have ever been? Yeah, go ahead and grab the DLC. I get what you're saying.
It pisses you off because Charmander is in the base game. You get him at the very end of the game as a present. So they literally took Squirtle and Bulbasaur out, so you had to buy this shit, and it's it's infuriating as fuck. Anyway. Mini Pokemon rant over. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, dude. That's literally what this is for. Especially to tell people if they're being nickel and dimed for.
They are definitely being nickel and dimed.
Yeah. Well, we had one more bit of news to discuss in today's show, and again, it's kind of a little bit of everything. But EA Play took place yesterday. And there was a few different things mentioned. That some would consider some of it kind of big news, but overall, I mean, they showed some pretty cool things. Skate 4, Apex Legends, which is I mean, I know many people who play Apex. I played it a little bit as well, and now crossplay this fall. And it seems to me like all of these battle royale games are starting to really get it. Like, hey, we're better off incentivized, letting you be able to play across platform, because at the end of the day, it means that people are still going to be playing more. That there's more people to connect with. EA, especially if you're a company, EA that is sinking money into this, being able to play it on all these different platforms. It just it just works out. Works out best for them. So that's a cool move. I'm glad they decided to do that. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Apex?
I'm just surprised that it's going to be running on the Switch. I can't believe the Switch is able to handle anything like that.
Now, is that already on the Switch, or is that coming to the Switch?
No, it's not. So that was the other big thing. Is not only is it cross-platform, but it's coming to
the Switch. Okay.
And my thought is, how the hell is this thing even going to run on the Switch? Because it's capped at 30 frames a second. And we know that the Switch isn't the most powerful device in the world. Granted, this isn't the most demanding game out there in terms of graphical performance, but it still makes me wonder how the Switch is even going to be able to keep up especially if there's crossplay, how it's going to be able to keep up with all these other platforms. So it'll be interesting to see.
Dude, back when I was watching streamers a lot, like I remember when they first introduced Fortnite on the Switch, it just seemed like anyone that tried to play the Nintendo Switch with other, be it PC or console people, they would always just get wrecked. Like, it's just not, I don't know, the Nintendo Switch, they're so made for those Nintendo specific games, I feel, that it's hard to get developers to be able to make competitive games on the Nintendo Switch.
Right.
Yeah. We got more Sims. You ever played Sims?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually used to love The Sims back in the day.
Right.
I don't play it anymore. Actually, it was free on PlayStation Plus a while back. I tried to play it. It's so fucking abysmal on the base PS4. Like, the load times and shit are astronomically just borderline unplayable bullshit. Sorry if I'm being
on the PS4.
On the PS4. So, PC and people who have a decent setup are going to be fine with it.
Yeah, most people that I've ever known that play it on the PC. Yeah. And I mean, listen, I get the appeal of it. I don't, maybe I just haven't. Like, this might be the kind of game that if I did actually decide to sit down and play it, I probably would have fun with it. But I've always been afraid of that happening, and I always just felt like, dude, I don't want to be that person that sinks 1 million hours into playing The Sims.
And see, I was one of those people back in. And we're not talking like The Sims 2 or 3. We're talking like the original Sims with the original expansion packs. I was one of those people, sitting there hours, raising kids, doing a whole bunch of shit. It definitely is an addictive thing, but it's basically the news here is that it's coming to Steam, which it never has because it's always been EA and Origin. So that was the news here, is that it's coming to Steam. So anybody who has a big Steam library can now play it. And I think this happened like immediately after the press conference ended. So that's an immediate thing.
Also, by the way, I don't feel obligated to like stay on track with this video. I'm pretty much just letting it play because it's like a brief kind of summation of everything that it was shown. This game looks sick.
This is it's called Random, I think. Is this Random or is this?
I think no. This is no. That was Lost in Random.
Lost Random, yeah, Lost in Random. That looked amazing. Then they were. It's an action platformer. As you can see, people were talking, or the developers were talking about how, like, depending on the actions you take, the world can actually.
So that's for It Takes Two?
Yeah, I think that's back a little further.
But so this is the It Takes Two, and it's like a watercolor kind of artwork type.
I did kind of want to talk about this. So it's about a little girl, and her parents are going through like a rough divorce or some shit. Mm-hmm. So like she's imagining a world with these two dolls, and basically you're controlling the dolls and like trying to work out her trauma or whatever you want to call it, I guess. It actually looks, even though it's got a decent looking art style, it actually looks pretty grim and dark. It looks like one of those like really like fucked up indie games where they really start going at you on a psychological level.
Yeah. Games for emo people who are sad and depressed all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is most people nowadays, I feel.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the gist of It Takes Two, or at least that's what I got from it.
The game that I was telling you looked sick was this one.
Yeah, this is Random, or The Lost Random. And this one's cool. It's got a very cool art style. I've always loved action platformers. You have too.
Yeah, me too.
It's kind of that thing. She has a dice companion, which apparently is going to come into play because they're talking about how the world is like random and like the decisions you make can randomly affect different things. I don't quite know all the details, but it looks cool. It looks like a Tim Burton kind of thing.
Dude, you stole the words out of my mouth. Like, dude, they're definitely trying to hit that Nightmare Before Christmas vibe, which I think that
cool.
I think they hit. Yeah, I mean, I love that kind of artwork. What was that movie? Coraline. Yeah, it looks like
yeah,
Coraline.
Coraline looks a lot like Coraline actually. Yeah, that's an even better comparison as Coraline. I agree.
Coraline mixed with the Corpse Bride. Yeah, definitely that Tim Burton animation art style, which is cool. I mean, I miss those movies. Every time I see games like that, I'm like, dude, I really miss watching like old animated movies.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Some Rocket Arena. Again, if there was so we don't have to follow this video, man. If there's anything specific, I know you took some notes.
I did.
But if there was anything specific that you wanted to talk about, it looks like we got some more Star Wars. Which, dude, I'm not gonna lie. It is. I've never been a big like flight simulators or like action fighting games in the sky or whatever. I've never been big on those, but I did see this, and it looks pretty cool. Like, if you're a fan of Star Wars stuff, you would pick this up.
I'm a nerd. The first thing I noticed, and the thing about Rocket Arena, really quickly, it's it's like an Overwatch kind of thing. I mean, literally, that's it. It's a hero shooter where the only guns you have are rockets, and it has that MOBA-esque style. It's nothing special.
So it's kind of gimmicky.
Yeah, it's very gimmicky. I do want to talk about Star Wars a little bit because I'm the Star Wars nerd.
Dude,
and you know, I'm not a flight simulator guy either. I respect games like Star Fox and all that shit, but I've never been really good at it. And you know, this really does feel like a first person, you know, kind of Star Fox game to me.
Yeah.
In that sense. The one thing I will say, and the one thing that's standing out to me, you did mention the presentation, but the one thing that stands out to me is the interior of these ships. If you're a nerd like I am, and you've really like delved into the way that they've, you know, presented these ships on screen and everything, the cockpits are, from what I'm noticing, absolutely flawless. It's very clear that they have gone back.
If you're still looking at what I'm looking at, we've got the cockpit right here. It tells you can see information. It shows you your radar and shit. But I also love the visuals. Like, I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I don't know what the name of this specific ship is. This big giant white ship that they're flying along. But the fact that you can go ahead, tell us.
That's the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, okay, it's a Star Destroyer. Pardon me, I know there are people that, what? How do you not know what the fuck a Star Destroyer is? Sorry, bro, not me. It's not my jam. But I do think it's cool that, like, you can get that close to these massive fucking ships, and there's a battle going on, and it feels and seems real. Like, that's cool, man. I mean, again, it's like, you don't really even have to be a fan of games like this to enjoy this. That I find.
Unfortunately, I do have my concerns about this really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there was in Star Wars Battlefront 2 prior to this, which is no longer being supported because they've moved on to a project like this. There was a Starfleet kind of mode like this. It was dropped very early in development. They stopped making content for it. Hopefully, they have learned their lesson with Battlefront 2 and really, pushed this to the limits. But unfortunately, from what I'm hearing, what I heard from the developers, like it's a multi-phase fight each time, which is kind of how Battlefront 2 was structured. So
when you say multi-phase, what do you mean?
Like they have different stages. So like at the beginning of the fight, you'll just shoot down a few drones. In the middle of the fight, you'll take down the shields of the Star Destroyer. and in the final fight or the final phase, you'll take down the Star Destroyer itself.
So it's very kind of cinematic almost. It kind of follows like a through line, like a God of War almost. You do this and then you do this.
Right.
It's kind of on rails a little bit. Now, correct me. Yeah, go ahead.
And personally, I don't think that fits this kind of game. You need the chaotic intervention of human players. And even though there are obviously it's a multiplayer thing, so you're gonna have human players, but the dogfights aren't gonna be very dynamic if they're sticking to a very specific rule set and a formula. So I am a little concerned that it's gonna seem very structured, which in a game like this you do not want to have.
Also, let me ask you this: is it pretty much the cockpit is your HUD?
Yes.
Okay.
And
cool. I like that though.
That's the really cool thing about this game is I don't even think there is a third person at all. I think it's completely first person, which, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there is a third person camera, but they didn't really show it.
That's fine.
So I think it's completely first. Your radar is over here on the left. So
I see that. It does look cool that it tells you all your ammunition and I do like that because even if you're playing like a racing game, it's fun to change camera views every once in a while, and especially if you're picking up a lot of speed. Being able to go into this first person mode always feels fast. And that's kind of what I gathered from this is that when you're flying around above Star Destroyers or whatever, there really is a sense of, you're hauling ass through space in a space battle. So I like that. That's cool. Did they say what platforms it's going to be on, or is it multi-platform?
Okay, so it's PS4, Xbox One, or Xbox One. All the current consoles, I don't know if it's going to be a PS5 thing or not. It's due out on October 2nd, so we'll have to wait and see. Is it
like a full $60 game, or we don't know?
Yes.
It is.
It's not an add-on. It's a full $60 game. There is actually going to be a story mode. I have a feeling this one's going to be half-assed, though.
What are the chances that the story mode can have, you walking around...
it's gonna be completely dogfighting. Like anything outside of the ship is going to take place in a cinematic, so you won't be able to really explore anything. I don't think. The one cool thing is that you're going to be switching between the Empire and the Republic, so you're going to get both sides and all different kinds of ships, which is basically just going to prepare you for multiplayer, but. It's whatever.
Now, do we know if any of that is going to be canon? Is it like a part of the Star Wars
lore? Actually, yeah. Everything from here on out that is ever done in a game is going to be considered canon in the Star Wars universe. So,
really? Cool.
Yeah, so this particular game takes place shortly after Return of the Jedi. So, shortly after the original trilogy.
Right.
So... I don't know how much of a bearing that's going to have. Battlefront 2's storyline also took place, actually a little during Return of the Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any correlation between, Battlefront and here, or if it's a completely separate thing. I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling because I'm a nerd, but yeah, it's just there's a lot of unanswered questions, which is interesting.
But
yeah, we can move on here. So, obviously the EA Sports brand is going strong. I think Lamar Jackson. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson would be this guy right here in the white top and the black pants. Is the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. He is the cover athlete this year for.
Yeah, I was going to say he's on the cover. Yeah, for Madden.
Yeah. Which, by the way, as a football fan, I rarely ever played Madden, especially because it's they're supposed to buy another one every year, and
that's ridiculous.
It's basically, they add new bells and whistles, and it always looks prettier, and they add all this other shit, but I don't know, it just feels like a $60 DLC every year You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of this kind of goes with the FIFA also, and the fan bases are kind of built in, so a lot of people just kind of buy them no matter
Buy
what.
them
If
automatically.
you're a
Yeah.
football fan, soccer fan, whatever, you know, if you're into it and you play online, you're gonna buy the newest shit. So,
Right.
I mean, again, like, there's no selling point. Are you a Madden fan? Cool. There's another one coming out. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? It's like you
Hmm.
don't need to sell any of this shit. Like, do you like
No.
football? Cool. Do you like soccer? Cool. They're gonna do another one. But and they didn't really even did they delve into a lot of the which I know that they did. They just put out a trailer actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, for all the features of the newest Madden, but I can't uh, come up with them off the top of my head. But
Right.
again, that's just
Well,
another cycle, you know.
yeah. They didn't mention anything during the press conference itself.
Right.
Um, they just kind of showed off Lamar Jackson. They showed a few gameplay clips, and that was it. So, like you said, there's no selling point here. If you're part of, if you've been investing in that franchise or these franchises, then you're going to invest in them again.
Yeah.
So, like you said, there's nothing special here. Um,
Then we got some. We know we're gonna have more racers, more racing
right.
games for them. They just kind of showed one. It looks like they're just kind of showing off. You know, hey, we're gonna do next gen, cool. So please buy our
Yeah,
games and shit. Now
definitely.
again, this is just a brief overview video that I'm watching.
Yeah.
But we're not following this. Did you have anything else of note from this show that you kind of wanted to either bring up or talk about? Really about anything that we've talked about today.
Yeah. There's one other piece of news here. Skate
Yep.
4 got announced. So
Yeah, it
if
did,
you're a
which they didn't
skateboarding
show in
fan,
the which they did not show in
uh,
this video, which I'm
well,
surprised
because
about.
they don't have any. Literally, all it said was Skate 4 is coming. Was the two guys that they're talking about. How Skate 4 was brought back by popular demand because they were planning to end the series entirely, but due to a petition and fan outcry, they have decided to come back. Uh, I'm actually. I'm pretty heavy into skateboarding. I know that sounds really weird considering
Really? Dude, I'm
I
learning
can't
a
even.
lot about you today. That
So
you're a photograph, dude. You're a podcast host by day, and you're a photographer skateboarder by night. You've been
so
living a double life without me knowing, Jeffrey. I'm
yeah,
disappointed.
well, that, and I'm also a competitive Pokemon tournament uh, person. So there's that too.
Jeffrey
Um,
Redmond, ladies and gentlemen, is just a jack
so
of all trades, really.
so like so when people say Pokemon is for kids, I just laugh at them and say, well, yeah, but there's a $10,000 tournament uh, coming up soon, so people need to shut the fuck up. But
Dude,
I digress.
I hate people like that because those are the people that look. And look, let me put it this way: as someone that is a fan of things that are traditionally nerdy, let me
Right.
also tell you that the shit that you don't think is nerdy as fuck, bro.
Oh yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you're a fantasy football player, don't you ever make fun of anyone else ever because you're the
Yeah.
nerdiest motherfucker who lives. You're just doing
Exactly.
it with fucking football and not doing it with fucking Pokemon or whatever else you're trying to make fun of. But yeah,
Okay.
man, everybody's nerds. It's just what are you a nerd about?
So
Yeah,
so
but that's cool, man.
skate forward very quickly. Um, Unlike Tony Hawk, which is more like arcadey, and more like fluid and pulling off, like crazy ass tricks and
Which is
stuff.
also coming back, by the way.
Yes, yeah. There's going to be a remaster version of that sometime in September. I'm also picking that shit up. You better know. Yeah, I love skateboarding. My brothers were into it back in the '90s and early 2000s, and basically my whole neighborhood was. So I just got swept along for the ride.
Yeah.
But anyway, Skate 4 is it's a more like technical game. Like literally, like you have to flip the analog stick in very like precise ways to even pull off the most basic of movement. It's very realistic, or at least as realistic as you can get with a thumbstick. So it's very much more grounded in physics than Tony Hawk is. So it'll be interesting to see if there's like any major improvements with Skate, because Skate was always kind of it was a very niche franchise. Basically, only people like me who were like really into that shit would
Yeah.
even bother picking it up. But I did hear a lot of people in the chat when I was watching this live praying that Skate 4 was a thing, and it now is. So that's really
Dude,
cool.
I remember playing, I think it was like Skate 2.
Yeah.
And just being like, God, this is just too much. Like,
Yeah,
I just found
ridiculous.
it annoying as fuck. Like, I feel like if
Yeah.
you were a fan of skateboarding games, for the most part, you were with Tony Hawk. But do you remember that god awful peripheral that one of the skates came out with? It was like a skateboard, and you could buy the fucking skateboard, and you were supposed to like try and do tricks on it, and everyone just hated it.
Okay, correction. That wasn't a skate thing. That was a Tony Hawk thing.
Oh, you're right. That was a Tony Hawk thing.
It was called Tony Hawk Ride, and it was
yes.
awful.
Okay, you're right. No, you're totally right. Yeah, that was the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
so skateboard.
So are you excited? You're excited about Skate 4?
Oh yeah, I do. I know this sounds really weird, and people are like, "You can't even stand on your own 2 feet, let alone a damn skateboard. What the hell do you care?"
More reason to want to play it. That's the way.
But I mean, skating has always been like. Yeah. I keep up with competitive skate. It's ridiculous, dude. Like,
do you still know the names of people that are like good today?
Yeah, the way you talk about football is the way I think of skateboarding.
Oh, that's dope, man. That's cool.
So yeah, it's a thing. It's a weird thing, but it's a thing.
Nice, dope, man. That's cool. Yeah. So but which one? Release dates on? Did it not say?
No, there's no release date on Skate 4. We have no idea when the hell it's coming.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Which one are you more? Because the new Tony Hawk, it's not really new. It's a remake.
No, it's a remake.
Yeah, it's a remake of the original one. So knowing that it's not a new game, you being a skateboarding fan, what are you more excited to play? A remastered, remade Tony Hawk, or a brand new Skate 4?
I think a remastered Tony Hawk, to be honest. I love Skate, don't get me wrong, but it's a very niche thing, and it takes a shit ton of practice, and I don't know if the mechanics are going to hold up like they did back on the PS3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just more of a thing, whereas anyone, no matter how good you are at gaming or not, can pick up Tony Hawk and really go to town with combos. The other thing to mention about Tony Hawk is just the damn soundtrack. I don't know how much you are into skateboarding music and shit, but stuff like the Ramones and all the grunge shit.
Oh, dude! Now that I'm thinking about it, that was some of my first experiences with Rage Against the Machine, which is one of my all-time favorite bands. But of course,
all those tracks are coming back. So like they've got all the licenses for all the music and stuff, and it's Tony Hawk, I believe 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of them are getting a representation in this one thing.
That's cool.
So
yeah, shit. Even I'm probably gonna pick this up just for the
dude. If you're big into video game soundtracks and like grunge '90s stuff, then this is an awesome soundtrack.
You mean my childhood? I'm into all the shit that I was into as a kid. Hey, do you remember Rocket Power?
Yes.
Dude, that was my show. I fucking loved Rocket Power. Yeah, Rocket Power was the shit.
Yeah, Rocket Power was the shit. Yeah, totally.
Otto and Twister and his sister, and then they had the what was it called? The Surf Shack or whatever.
Yeah, the Surf Shack.
Yeah, dude. I need to stop.
No, I hear you, man. I'm right there with you.
I'll be on here forever. Talking about dumb shit. Well, I do think that does it for another edition of the Cripple Connection podcast. Jeffrey, did you have anything else that you wanted to mention or bring up in leaving, or and after that, if you do have anything to say, where can they find you online?
Okay, so the only thing I really want to say is that I'm looking forward to the next generation, and I know that sounds obvious, but
Yeah.
after seeing a lot of the even something like EA, a lot of the smaller things like Lost Random and stuff like that. I'm really curious to see what people can really do with the next generation, and I'm really happy that it's almost here.
So,
So
I think you might feel the same way. Most of these press conferences, I've been excited for new shit that I've
yeah,
seen rather than existing titles.
and the old
So,
stuff,
if I were to
yeah,
pick
completely,
anything from that EA, it'd be the Lost Random. Like
yeah,
I love the visual style. I love the platform. And dude, doesn't it seem like platformers are trying to make a strong comeback?
yeah,
Dude,
they
I'm
really
into
are,
it,
dude. It's
man.
so cool.
I'm down for it. I love a good
Me too.
platformer, man. With
Me too.
a good platformer with a good story and good mechanics, dude, I'm all for that, man. But
Yeah, definitely.
tell everybody if they're a fan of your comments and your opinions, where they can find you to get more of them.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at Jeffro Red, so JEFFRORED. You can find
Okay.
me on Twitter the same way. In fact, I would recommend that you follow me on Twitter. I tend to post more there than
Follow
Facebook. So
Jeffrey on Twitter.
please,
Get his numbers up, man. That's what we got to
yep,
do. My name is Cody Lashney. As always, I am your host. You can find me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac. And every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on the C3 Carolina Cat Chronicles podcast with my guys Tony Dunn, CK, and Greg the Bat Daddy. That is all for us until next Friday when we will be doing a deep dive on The Last of Us 2. Get your
yes,
gameplay hours in. Let us know what you think. We're going to be doing a deep dive, talking everything Last of Us 2. It's going to be a good time.